So the biggest protests all around the world in service of the Palestinians have just gone on, and the mainstream media all around the globe will not show this. It's quite concerning, very ominous, this sign that there is that much control, regardless of what you believe of what's going on over there. There's that much control and censorship happening around the world when there is so many people that care about something. It is a direct suppression of values that people are expressing and embodying. It's not healthy for the entire world, humanity, or any Western nation or otherwise all across the globe. Ain't good. Same time, we've got the World Health Organization pandemic treaty being signed up to by all these countries. After what has gone on, the absolute atrocities and ignorant and failures of the COVID-19 handling, including where it came from, which we it's all out there now as widespread knowledge, well researched and proven. However, the WHO, in line and lockstep with certain narratives, again, is suppressing and censoring the way they want, is just being given more powers in a new treaty, including my blind country like Australia signing up. It's becoming more and more obvious that there is just a continual push by these immoral powers that be, these authorities that just have a coercive manner in the way they're dictating the way our trends and narratives are going. And that's like a smoking gun right there in what's happening in the Middle East and this WHO, etc. What's less visible and I guess more difficult to uncover is the banality, as Hannah Arendt puts it, of evil that exists in all the moral apathy of all of our countrymen all across the world, across the globe. The difficult hurdle to get over is the spiritual immaturity that exists in modern humans that will not allow and directly prevent all of us from having the mature conversations that we need to have about the smoking gun in the hands of the biggest elephant in the room, right there in front of us, doing wrong, and we just better look after myself, put my head in the sand a little bit, because my life's tough. And our lives are tough, and our lives are a challenge, and we deserve all our energy and efforts to improve ourselves and our lives and our families' lives. However, it doesn't abdicate our responsibility, especially when it's pure cowardice and fear that drives us away from looking at such ugly truths, especially the ugly truths in the more immoral powers and authority that dictate the way our very lives go. So it's getting kind of to a boiling point. I mean, look at the protests for Palestine right now. It is so big. They're so powerful and impactful. It's all through social media, and the powers and authorities just cruise on by. And they cruise on by because the very difficult hurdle to jump is instilling courage and moral fortitude in the population, the masses, and every neighbor you have to actually look at the ugly truth and go, hey, that's not right. Look after your own family, do your own thing. However, you don't just cruise on by when there are values being suppressed and crushed by immoral ongoings and authoritative bodies and governments and regulatory agencies and you name it. It ain't right, and it's not sitting well. And so the American dream, the Australian dream, the dream of the West, it's all quite evaporating pretty quickly. People's long-term plans, they don't look as pretty as they once did in the 80s and the 90s and all that, even the early 2000s. So, is it any wonder that there is a growing malaise amongst our cities and our nations, and then these elections that pop up do not look very good. We just had an Australian election, doesn't feel very good. There is just a snowballing direction with people putting their head in the sand all around, unable to have a mature conversation to confront it. And it's not about, waving, there is room for activism and it's going well, I guess. They're rallying well, that's great, and it needs to happen. But there's also room for just on the more sensible, palatable, constructive criticism and debate approach to actually engage in very ugly truths that is far beyond the people, the political commentators that have the mic right now, that just sit there blabbing over and over in ignorance. They're not having any debate or any discussion. They're just talking to themselves, and they're not willing to speak to any of the real, truth-seeking, open-minded, spiritually interpretive humans out there that are want to look at the values that are being violated in honesty. They're hiding behind shields of like official military methodologies or official narratives from government or regulatory agencies or whatever body that just governs and dictates policy, and they hide behind this as if it's valid and moral, but it isn't. So we need more spiritual discussion about how to interpret morality with an open mic, an open forum. And God, can we please get that going? Please give me any thoughts. Anyone's having any ideas where to look for, who's making headway anywhere in the world, whether it's here in Australia or anywhere, let me know. I need to hear some people speaking about spiritually interpretations of what's going on in a mature way, spiritually mature way, that is, so that we can kind of start to untangle all this. Not the hyper-rational debate, here's my policy, here's the historian expert view. I need deeper engagement on what's happening. Anyone, any ideas, please?